Our guest today is Nils Keller, who works as a film, commercial, and TV director. His short films have been screened at several renowned film festivals around the world, such as LA Shorts and Sapporo International Short Film Festival. His TV commercial work has been honored at the New York International Advertising Awards and the Golden Award of Montreux, among other festivals. But as a TV director, he just finished his first German TV series project. But we are here today to discuss his sci-fi short film, Almost Home, which won gold at the Student Academy Awards and was shortlisted for an Oscar in 2023. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome film director Nils Keller to the show. Welcome, Nils.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well,
It's
what
really great to
led
be
you?
here.
I will tell you one thing. I loved your film, by the way. So what led you to do a story based in outer space?
It all started with a CNN article I read in the early pandemic times. It was like April 2020. I don't know what it was over there in the US, but here it was the time where like the first panic was over, but people really started wondering what's next. And in the article, this was about a cruise ship where people couldn't go to any country and they were cruising the ocean in search of a safe harbor. And the twist in the article was that actually there was a faction of people who wondered if it was better to stay on board of this ship, even if they were allowed to leave. And this theme, people choosing this iron prison instead of their freedom, really made me curious about okay, what's behind that, and how can we tell a story about that that's more than just the pandemic story, but the more universal one. And then this all led to the sci-fi thing that's far away from COVID. It's a teenager story that's also kind of universal, and it's about, in the end, the right to decide for yourself and to handle problems together.
Well, I was wondering because not only did I enjoy watching Almost Home, but and you bring up the pandemic because I got to thinking after I watched the film, did the pandemic give you the idea, which you do allude to here? But I was surprised that with picking a spaceship, so to speak, or a space station, it's a very, very, I guess, sterile environment. Is that one reason why you picked that location for the characters?
Yes, definitely. So the idea was to find this kind of metaphoric place where they could be. It's a mother son story, and they really have to fight the conflict that's arising from another pandemic that's arising there, but it's not COVID, and they have to fight out their conflicts. And the question is the mother or the son deciding about the son's life and future and the things. So it gets more radical, and it's harsher, like the environment, but everything around that is more pushed to the limit, because you can't just run away from a spaceship, you can't just leave. It's a irreversible decision if you decide to go back to space or if you go to Earth. The main question will be there in the story, because there is a pandemic and it's threatening the boy. The boy is almost an adult, and the mother thinks she has to protect him as she always had to. And the boy just wants to live his life and go to Earth. And the fight about who's to decide which choice to make and what risks to take is the ultimate fight in that film and the story.
Yeah, there was a lot to take in into this short film, and I picked that up because you have a parent that is still wanting to overlook everything that their child does. But then you bring in this teenager who is literally at that age where he has the ability to either listen to his guidance of his parents, or he's old enough to actually make a decision on his own. So you see this little bit of conflict going on in this short film, but your ability to create such emotion from the characters played by Suzanne Wolf and Jeremias Meyer in this simulated closed space, I thought was creatively brilliant.
Thanks.
Well,
I
do
hope many
you?
people see it like that. But yeah, that was the ultimate goal, to really come to that very human point of the story where it's not about politics. It's not about uh, saying what's right or wrong, but it's really about being a human and asking those questions. What are we ready to sacrifice for our safety? How much risk are we going to take? Because in the end, this story is bigger than just a pandemic. The pandemic is like a symbol that we all learned for this moment where your life is turned upside down. But in our personal lives, it can be something totally different. It can be that you finished your studying and you want to start a career, but then all of a sudden your parents get sick and you have to decide, do I want to protect them? Do I want to be there for them? Or do I have to pursue my career? What happens if I don't? So like these moments in life where things are cut short and we have to do things very differently, um, that's at the core of it. And that's hopefully where most people can connect, that sometimes there is no good option at hand. It's just like to decide which option is better or worse. And I don't want to spoil it here, but
No. Oh,
in
I know. I'm,
in the
I'm not going to give the ending away. And I
yeah.
love the fact that here is a potential threatening pandemic having happening on Earth in your film. But what I love the way that you created the story is that the pandemic was not the focus. It was kind of like a sub story to the struggle between the mother, the son, and even the father, because the father was on Earth. And I love the way that it's completely, ladies and gentlemen, it's completely non-political, but it's more about the story between the parent and the child. And I also love the fact that you brought in the flashbacks of of the son thinking about his friends on Earth. That really brought that human, earthly element, so to speak, to the story. Um, why did you choose for the teenager to be on this space station, so to speak, because he was there trying to improve another health condition?
You mean like overall why he has gone to space in the first
Yes,
place, or
yes.
yeah, he has like the backstory that's in there is, and it might seem a bit complicated for a short film, but I think it's really important. Is that the reason he went with his mother and they are alone in that spaceship is that on Earth he had this worsening condition where he was more and more unable to move, and also had severe pain. And this severe pain is the main reason his mother took him to space and tried like an alternate treatment for him, and it worked. And in that sense, the spaceship was kind of a prison for him for 2 years, but also it's freeing him, and it's coming with the promise that once he has gone through all of this, he can go back to Earth and live his life, which is not so far away from what our parents always promise us. Like, go to school, do this, do that, do your homework, don't go out at night, but whatever, do your sports, and then when you turn 18 then or 21, you will be an adult and you can do whatever you want. And it really heightens the drama for this kid. I feel that he's not just like an ignorant teenager who doesn't really know what he wants, but he knows what it is, what it means to sacrifice. So when he says enough is enough, I can't do this anymore, he has way more right, because he has gone through this disability thing. He's suffered in his life. He has had pain. He knows he had this decision already to say, okay, I'm for my treatment. I'm not seeing all my friends for 2 years. So he's not just a teenager, but he has so much inside of him. Also, the if you think back, like a person that goes to space and lives inside like 60 square meters has to be so mentally strong that you can't say he's just an ignorant teenager. So that felt very important to make him more three-dimensional.
You know, the what I loved about the part of this short film was, and I hope that when everyone sees this short film, that even though we may go through a difficult time, and even if a decision is difficult to make, sometimes it's best to wait a little longer to get what you really want. And that was
Yeah.
part of the message that I really received from this film.
Yeah, it's definitely there to think about what do I really want for me, starting from the point where I get to make the decisions. So I think there's two main messages in the film in the end. The one is we have to keep talking with each other, and also it's necessary to fight conflicts and fight with each other to figure out what's right or wrong and to reevaluate our relationships, because otherwise we can't live together, we can't do things. But we learned during COVID that in the end, like, the the persons closest to you are the most important in your life, and it sometimes it's not possible to live together, but sometimes it is, and it can be very strong. And the other question is, sometimes you have to realize that your life is cut short, or that it takes another path, or that life paths are always very chaotic. And looking back at our lives so far, it happened 100 times. Things we haven't foreseen. We were lucky. We had bad luck. Something didn't work, and then to look into the future and say, okay, I'm not just like running away or jumping out of the window or whatever, but really say, um, okay, this is part of my journey, and this is not the end. It's just another way, and we have to figure out what to do, and can't just like blindly say, okay, but we want this, even if it doesn't work. This is something about the ability of human beings to grow, I feel. So this is maybe the main message, even if there's no other message beside that, just like questions. But that felt important to me, because that was something I was really impressed by, and I didn't know that back in April 2020, but it came the next months and years, that actually our relationships and some things we handle in society, and I don't say that everything worked right, and there were some errors that were made by individuals, but also bigger organizations. But in the end, there was a sense to stick together. And what people first said in the beginning, that everything will go haywire and everything will get out of control, and this is the moment our society breaks apart, and whatever, it didn't happen. So
That's true. And, another message that I really received from your film was that communication is key. And to have two people in an enclosed space, not able to run away. It's kind of like if two people are arguing in a room, one can leave the room and slam the door and leave. But that's not the case here. They have to face their conversations, they have to talk to one another. And there's a big lesson in that. So, your film, like I said, it's brilliant because there's so many elements in within 23 minutes, and you've done a stupendous job here. How difficult was it for you to cast the characters?
um, yeah, the thing is, Suzanne, who plays the mother, she's a quite renowned actress in Germany. So it wasn't like I could just do a casting with five brilliant actresses in Germany, because point A, there aren't that many like in who are exactly that harsh. And it was important to have a character that's not just a loving mother, but also an individual that isn't ready to ask her son for what he thinks about the world, because she's a scientist, she's the spaceship's captain, she knows how to survive in space, she traveled there alone for years, she's not that classic family person. So she rather becomes a mother by accident, and rather by accident becomes an obsessive mother that wants to control her son's life, because as a captain you have to make sure that your passengers survive, and he's her only passenger. So I wrote Susanna a love letter, basically, where I said, okay, I really want to work with you, because I think you are the most amazing person for that role. She played kind of a similar role in another film that won her the German Film Award, where she's this woman who sails the Atlantic Ocean alone and then crosses paths with a refugee boat and has to decide what to do, and it like becomes like a life-threatening situation. So that was the reason I casted her. With Jeremiah's, he was an up and coming actor before, but he wasn't quite renowned. And a fellow actress referred him to me, and we met, and it was instantly very good feeling. We did some casting scenes, and he was just like very humble and very curious at the same time, and very interested to get all the things right, work correctly with the disability, meet the experts, do videos, etc., etc. And then with the father, whom some people might know from Dark, he's playing in there the series. It was pretty much the same. That I told him, okay, you are probably the perfect character for what we are doing here, because on the one hand, you are this father figure. You are warm. You're different from what Suzanne plays, but you're not that old school dad. There's some gentleness in him, I feel. So it really helps that in the end we wanted to do this actor actress setup where you don't have a bad faith actor. In the end, it's just different interests, and all the people have actually very good intents, but they are not. You can't put them together. Like one opinion has to win in a way, or one agenda has to win, because you can't go both back to space and both to Earth. It's just not possible, and that's something that's very true about life. That in the end you can understand everyone, and in the end it's just like the risk assessment everyone is doing, and a very personal choice what you are ready to do. Who am I to like if someone says I want to do big adventures, and maybe it's a risk for my life, but I feel I have to do it. Who am I to say you can't do it? So it's very personal in the end.
Yeah, and what I loved was the interaction between the mother, the father, and the son. They all loved one another. They respected one another. Uh, they had differences of opinion, and I like the way that you really choreographed, the differences of opinion in the film, because it's not like you have a full blown argument and then people end up resenting one another or hating one another. It was for the best interest overall. The father knew what was going on Earth. He relays that message to the mother, and the son understands what's going on. But you understand that the mother cares for the son. You understand that the father cares for the son. But there is conflict. But you just put it together so wonderful. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, this is a short film, Almost Home, that you really have to see, because like I said, I love short films because there's so much that can be done in a very short amount of time. Instead of sitting in a theater for 3 hours, it's amazing what you can come away with within 20, 25 minutes. But I have to ask you this, Nils, because how did you achieve the floating around in space to look so real?
It was actually a mix of techniques, and we learned from the very best, because I heard that the 100 million and onwards budget films sometimes are doing that. Actually, we did, let's say, 10 or 20% of those zero gravity shots with the most professional technique, which is you're using those wires. It's metal wires that go through a traverse system, and they have things that are called harnesses beneath their costumes, and then they're attached to these wires and being pulled through the spaceship. So the ceiling is disassembled; they are floating around there, but it comes with a lot of visual effects work. You have to paint away the wires frame by frame. It's very hard on the actors, because they're really hanging with their full body in there and have to use a lot of power. And you were moving incredibly slow, and we didn't have many shooting days, so it was clear that we can just use that on, let's say 7 or 8 shots where you have to create this suspension of disbelief where, okay, he's really full body floating around. And the rest of it we did by faking. And I heard that even Brad Pitt did it one time, where our stunt supervisor sent them a briefing video where he told the actors, basically, in space, there's just 2 or 3 things you have to know. It's you never go into a different direction if you don't touch something, because you have to push yourself off of it. And if you turn your body, it's always going around the axis that's going through your body. And the biggest thing, Jeremiah's the young boy, because for him it was most important. He sent me hours of material where he asked me, "Does it look good right now? Does it look good right now?" And he did it so perfectly in the end that we had a 2-minute sequence that we couldn't put into the film, where he was cleaning up his room, just had some small boxes he was stepping on, and he just moved around the room like this, and you wouldn't realize that it's not zero gravity, and he was pushing, and it was really like dancing. And that we combined with a camera system that was remote controlled. It's a very modern system where the DOP has like a remote control thing, and the camera starts floating around itself. So we extended the body movements and did like a little dance with the actors. And that was actually a lot of fun. It was very freeing, and you didn't need any ropes there. So whenever it was a closer shot, you can totally do it. And yeah, that was a trick there.
Was that the most difficult part of the film, of filming it?
Of filming it, definitely. And the other hard part was that we had to create the spaceship itself in a way that we wouldn't always just use the same angles, but were more creative and switch the camera style during the film according to the story. So we had several walls that could be disassembled, but we had to be very careful to not overdo it, because you're losing so much time for shooting if you always just like disassemble the spaceship, reassemble it, disassemble it. So using the space wisely and in a cinematic way was the other hard part. And I'd say the third most hard part goes on the actors. And I really admire them for achieving that, because for us, like when we're watching the film, all the visual effects are there, the atmosphere is there, everything feels right. But they were actually standing inside a wooden structure where you could basically not open any door or anything, because it was like most of it was just painted, and there was no ceiling in there. There was a lot of blue in front of the window, and they really had to manage to feel at home there and to portray that they are living in there for 2 years, and that this is the place where they are always moving around and that they are used to, and a place that's locking them in, but it's also giving them warmth, and so on and so on. So it was very hard to give them a sense of realism. That was like, for the audience as well as them, that was the reason we used like haptical photographs, things he has like as memorabilia from Earth, so you have kind of a sense that this is a real place and not just a lot of wood.
Well, I have to tell you, Nils, I was impressed because when I watch films, and of course I'm watching the storyline, but at the same time I'm looking at camera angles, I'm looking at wardrobe, I'm looking at just how certain things are done. I have to say, your film Almost Home is better at the special effects than I've seen in $100 million, $200 million films. Your film was, I mean,
Turning red right now.
Yeah. And for all of you filmmakers out there, you need to watch Almost Home. This should be a tutorial how to do things right, how to work in a budget and make it look like $100 million film. My gosh, I mean, when the spaceship connected to the space station, everything looked better than a Star Wars movie. I mean, it was absolutely realistic. There was nothing cheap about the look. I mean, even on the close-up shots of the characters, my eyes were actually looking at their spacesuits, and I was thinking the whole time, I'm thinking, those are designed so wonderful. And how, for filmmakers out there and wardrobe, where did you come across the spaceship outfits? Because they looked ultra modern and they looked like something that we would see modern future astronauts wear.
Yeah, there's actually a concept art we were inspired by from, I guess it's MIT, where they thought about what will the spacesuits of the future look like when you don't, because like the very big ones, they are designed because you need oxygen in there. There's a lot of things you need, but the idea there is you actually need those suits in order to protect your body. And the reason there are these lines on there, they are actually pressure lines where the suit itself puts pressure on your body and helps you not losing as much muscles, because the most dangerous thing in zero gravity is that you're losing your muscles, and those astronauts need to, right now, if you're on the ISS, they need to train 3 hours a day or something to go against this muscle loss. And it felt like really the right way to get inspired by this concept art, where they say, okay, this is not about looking futuristic or super cool or whatever. I mean, I feel it looks cool, but first it's very functional, and it's the most functional thing you can have on your body. And I like this idea because this was really to the point where we said, okay, the spaceship actually looks like an old truck or something. It doesn't look fancy, because if you're in space, no one will watch your spaceship floating by and say, "Oh, this looks great. Let's make it more fancy." It's just functional, and there's no reason to hide all the cables and pipes and whatever. And to use it in that way, and to say, okay, what uh, it also feels like the space suits are feel like very protective and very warm. It's a little bit like a pajama, let's say. And that was actually the first fear of our main actress Susanne, when she saw them and they weren't finished yet and they didn't have these lines, that she said, okay, are we gonna wear pajamas like in the whole film, or what's gonna happen? But in the end, they are something giving you warmth and protecting your body. It's very close to you, and it's comfortable and helpful both. So
Again, I mean, every element of this film, from the storyline to the look, again, for all of you wannabe filmmakers, or maybe you are a filmmaker, this is the film that is a true lesson on how to do it right. And Nils, you did it right. And I have to ask you this: what did it mean for your film to be Oscar shortlisted?
that was incredible, because in the end, the film looks quite polished and everything fits together. At least what people say. It's always hard to judge that yourself, if it's all perfect or not. But on the journey there, it was a very long journey. It was a very hard journey, and a lot of things didn't quite work as easy as we thought. So it was like one step after another. It was a huge team effort. Everyone in the team deserves this shortlists thing and this honor, because in the end it was people believing without payment for 2 years in that project. They sacrificed some of their paid jobs. They were there for weeks and at nights and painted the spaceship, tried to find fixes for everything, redid things that didn't work, because it wasn't just like a professional team. In the end, it was like everyone was just doing the best possible in order to achieve that. And being shortlisted in the end for such an adventure that could go wrong at so many turns is just a huge honor for us young filmmakers, because most of us, it's like one of the first short films we did, and it's just incredible to be there and be seen by these Academy members and by the audience and be interviewed by you, and really get this feedback that this is something memorable, and this is something we can keep on doing, should pursue, that the concept of an elevated genre film works, that the characters really are at the center, even though there's so much technical stuff. And that's what's all behind that being shortlisted. Um, it's pretty much that it's like it's an honor for the production that worked so hard. And I don't know, to give you two insights how this project went. We weren't shooting on a soundstage or something. It was an old hall of the Munich wastewater management, that they gave us, and we had to cover the ceiling windows. We had to cover the walls because of the sound. There, we had to secure the doors because otherwise people would have broken in probably. Um, the visual effects, they were just like mainly being done by one person alone, who is like an autodidact who learned that himself and was sitting in his room back home for 2 years doing all these effects and still trying to be creative. So yeah, that's like the big story behind everything there. And in the end, yeah, there's a story, and I'm so happy that it doesn't stand in the way, because it's for the audience. It's not important to see that people put a lot of effort in there. In the end, it's the we are all doing that for this tiny little story of a boy who wants to be free, who wants to have his own voice, whom his mother has to understand that he's grown up enough to do that, and to tell the story about humanity. In the end, that's what's important. And if we wouldn't have achieved it, and people would just talk about the effects, then
Well, you did
we did.
no. I mean, your film, Almost Home, is absolutely complete. You absolutely deserved to be on the shortlist for the Oscar. The acting was absolutely fantastic with all of the characters. The set design, costume design, the special effects. Again, for 23 minutes, it looks like $100 million film. And you and everyone that worked on this film, Almost Home, should be absolutely proud of themselves. So, what is next for Nils Keller?
um, yeah, there's several projects I'm developing right now. I've got a new management in the US, Echo Lake Entertainment, which I'm very happy about. And basically, it's about getting the next feature film off the ground. And there are like one possibility might be, and I'm already in development for that together with Jonas, who was the producer on here, and we're going for the next projects, a feature version of Almost Home that's expanding the whole thing. It's, let's say, it's the same concept of a young adult trying to get free from his mother, contained environment, spaceship, but then we are expanding the stories in several dimensions and really still try to uh, hold at the center, even though we make it more Hollywood, this very heartfelt story that people can care about and people can identify with. But there's also projects that are using the horror genre as a young adult story and elevate that and have like a very horrific horror story. Let's say that's a lot of suspense and all the effects in there, but in the end, through that, push a very human drama about a daughter and her father who has a disability, and it has different questions. It's about mental health. It's about what we are as a society, how parents and society protects young people. So there's different stories. It's not all about sci-fi, and that didn't start Almost Home with the idea to make a sci-fi film. But for me, it's all. It sounds a bit big, but I want to be the German Denis Villeneuve and want to create those cinematic genre films that are dramas in the first place, and where people like my mother, who normally hates sci-fi, says, "Okay, I just loved Denis Villeneuve sci-fi films because there's some human story in there, and she wants to see it." Yeah, I think our favorite is Arrival. I don't know if you likes Blade Runner, but um, and that's the goal here, to on the one hand create some cinematic experience, but through that push those humanitarian topics and these stories and these constellations of characters where we really can identify with, and where we really take away something from that, even though it might not be there. There are films that go deeper into the morals or whatever, but that there is an experience I really care about and not just the experience.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, be on the lookout, because Nils, I'm waiting for the full-length feature film of Almost Home. I will be there to see it, and because you did a wonderful job. It's a brilliant short film. And is there a place that all of my viewers can actually watch Almost Home?
If they are living in Germany, it will be online from March 1st through the TV station that was a co-producer on it. They put some money in there for a student film. Otherwise, it will be festivals, but I'm pretty sure that in a year from now, or in some months from now, it will be published somewhere on a platform, or let's see. Keep you updated.
Well, I think what needs to happen is somebody needs to create a streaming platform for all short films, so we can just go there to watch all of these wonderful works of art, and that's exactly what they are. And ladies and gentlemen, you better be prepared, because I can tell you right now that Nils Keller is going to be one of those film directors that you're going to have to keep an eye on, and he's going to be a global box office success. I can almost guarantee it, because again, he has proven that he has the eye. He has the eye for film. He has the eye for creativity. He has the eye and the heart for the stories that we can all relate to. And Nils Keller, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the show today.
Thanks a lot. You exactly described our dream and goal for the next years.
Well,
so hopefully connecting with a global audience, because that's what filmmaking is about, connecting with an audience. Thanks a lot.
That is it. And you are an excellent storyteller. And ladies and gentlemen, when Almost Home comes to you, either through streaming or where you have the opportunity to see it, I'm going to scream it from the rooftops, from the mountaintops. You need to see this film. And for all of you filmmakers out there, you need to start heading to all of the film festivals. So when Almost Home is shown, you're going to see what I'm talking about. This is a lesson in filmmaking. And I think the greatest lessons for all filmmakers is to get into making short films, because you learn so much, you grow so much, you hone your craft. And Nils, you have the background, and I love the fact that you brought all of this together. But again, I want to thank you so much for honoring us with your time and sharing your film, Almost Home, with all of us.
Thanks so much. It was great talking to you.
All right, Nils Keller, ladies and
future.
gentlemen, TV director and film director. And so get ready, because you're going to see more from him in the future. And as for me, stay tuned, because we will be right back with more.
Das ist diese Party übernächste Woche und ich will nicht ohne Geschenk auftauchen.
Wie wär's mit einer Bodenprobe vom Mars?
Tsugino Schömatsu, dann Ashimini Steimas.
Ich kann verstehen, dass du jetzt deine Freunde sehen willst, aber jeder Körper muss sich an die Erde gewöhnen und für deinen ist es ein kompletter Neustart.
Auf jeden Fall ist gut, dass ihr jetzt kommt. Wir planen schon wieder irgendwelche Sondermaßnahmen. Diesmal ist es irgendein Grippevirus und die Leute spielen total verrückt. Wann kommst du runter?
Dauert noch. Ja, ich muss mich erst an die Schwerkraft gewöhnen.
Kann der sich auch unten machen? Ich meine, ihr habt doch Gerät, oder?
Wenn sich sein Magen wieder nach innen gedreht hat.
There's a new study that suggests severe vulnerability for a very small group of people with very specific genetic defects.
Du hast eine Immunkrankheit, eine Autoimmunkrankheit.
Ich werde mich sicher nicht hier wochenlang verstecken.
Glaubst du, ich weiß nicht, wie schwer es für ihn war? Glaubst du, ich will hier auf diesem Scheißschiff noch weiter sitzen? Damit er in Sicherheit ist.
Dann kommt nach Hause. Gib ihm eine Perspektive.